Okay guys, welcome to Module 1. In this module, our expert will be teaching you about common elements that can be tested. So get ready to take some notes and let's jump right in.
All right, so we're going to use this landing page as an example and look at the various elements that can be split tested when you're trying to optimize your conversion rates. Now, one important thing that I want to emphasize, and we'll come back to it and I'll remind you later, is that you can only test one thing per variable that you're testing. So if you're testing two variations, only one element should be changed between the two. Otherwise, you're not going to know what caused the increased conversion. Okay, if you start changing multiple variations, if you change a headline and a button and an image in both of the variations, well, then you won't know whether it was the headline or the image or the copy or the background or the button that made the difference. So it's incredibly important that when you are split testing among two variations, you're only doing one element at a time so that you can absolutely nail down what has what kind of effect on your conversion rates. So let's just take it from the top, okay? The headline. The headline is the first thing that you could potentially test in a split test to see if you get a better conversion rate. Okay, and basically, if you've got a unique selling proposition or multiple angles that could be attractive about your product, you would want to figure out how to incorporate them and which ones to emphasize, because there's only so many words you can fit into a headline, right? I mean, that's the whole point of a headline, is that it's pretty short and sweet. You want to get people's attention, right? And you can only include so much information in there. So just as a random example, let's take things to a higher level. Sounds kind of cool, but it's also very vague, right? What if the headline was a little bit beefier and said, let me show you how to boost your revenue by 30%? That is more specific, and it might perform better. We don't know. We would have to test it. My guess is it probably would, but that's the point of a split test. So what we want to do is create one page with this headline, which we already have, and another page with that other headline, and leave all other elements the same. They have to remain constant between those two page variations. Now, the next thing you can change is imagery. Imagery is super powerful on landing pages, and it can make the difference between high and low conversion rates. So a lot of things to take into account are your target audience. You want to make sure that any human characters in your images will be relatable or have the desired effect on your audience. So if your audience is in a certain demographic group, just to give you an example, if you start noticing, and this is a real life example here, if you were to start noticing based on your email interaction with people in your customer community that many of them are elderly, many of them are retirees or coming up on retirement, well, guess what? You should probably have some gray hair in your images so that it's relatable, right? Gender is huge. There's competing studies out there as to whether or not a female is more likely to buy something if she sees a male or a fellow female. And it obviously depends on what type of product you're selling. Same thing with a man. Is he more likely to buy something if he sees a female or a male? It depends. If you're selling, masculine products, something like a big manly, deodorant brand, well, then you probably want to see men on screen using it, obviously. But can you incorporate gender into it? For example, ladies who are impressed by the smell of the deodorant, right? There's a science behind all of this. But what you can do is sort of skip the science and just split test what the difference is. So we could literally have an image like this, and then have the exact same image, or very similar, same pose or similar pose at least, but have a female here. Split test that and see what the difference is. And if you see a significant difference, one way or the other, then go with it. Go with the winner. Okay? Another thing to consider about imagery is tangible perceived value. Depending on your target audience, it may get you further to have a set of a bunch of what are clearly, pretend digital mock-ups of digital products. Okay? Because in some people, that sort of activates this feeling of, wow, that's a thing, and I want to get my hands on it. I want to possess that, right? But you could also test this with purely an abstract image of a person. with a headline next to them, or a person smiling, or an entrepreneur standing in their place of business or something like that. No digital products being represented at all. And see if that works better. Once again, make sure that's the only element that you're testing, and then see what the winner is. Next, there's the copy, which is the actual text, the words of your message. This is very important. However, it's not quite as easy to just, play switcheroo with it, because there's a lot of it. There's multiple words, multiple sentences, right? And so probably if you're going to split test different copy, they're going to be completely different. Okay, you're going to change which angle is emphasized. Depending on what you're selling or offering for free, there's probably multiple marketing angles that you could push that might be relevant to different target markets. And so you could have angle 1 and angle 2 and see which one works best. So for example, in this copy, you'll see there's sort of an assumption that a business exists. This mastermind course will take your business to the next level. Here's what it includes. But what if we split tested that against exact same page, but the copy was different and the angle was a little bit different, and in this next variation, what was actually being emphasized was a person who does not have an existing successful business, a person who's been struggling. So finally, once and for all, stop struggling and we'll get your business off the ground, or something like that, and test those two different marketing angles of copy against each other and see which one resonates the most with your traffic. And then finally, there's the button. Now, this is sort of a controversial area because there's people who swear that changing the color of a button can have a huge impact on conversion rates, and then there's people who think that that's just silly. So the correct answer is probably somewhere in the middle. There is evidence that different colors result in different behavior or different psychological effects on viewers. Red usually translates to urgency, but at the same time, red can also mean no. Blue usually translates to trust. At the same time, blue could, theoretically, not get your people excited enough or galvanized enough. And then there's branding. If brand colors and theme colors, that are part of your identity, are important to you, and maintaining an attractive page are important to you, then you might not have as many options to drastically change to just one specific color on your buy button. But if you do have the flexibility to run a quick test between blue and red, something simple like that, just to see on the off chance that it makes a difference, well, it might be worth doing so. And if the gap between the two of them is significant enough, then bravo, you've got a winner. You can go with whatever color that was, at least for that particular landing page. And finally, it's not just the color of the button, it's also the copy of the button. Okay, so the different wording. Take it to a higher level is kind of a cool sounding phrase, a little bit more vague, right? Get the course could be something that you test against that. One area on which there's been a lot of study is the point of view of the text. So if it's written from the point of view of the reader, and the reader sees the button as saying, give me the free report versus download your free report. There's been some studies and tests in the past that have shown that the give me the free report, meaning speaking from the perspective of the reader, has a higher conversion rate. It's probably not always going to be the case, but because that phenomenon does exist out there, it might be something smart to test on your pages. So those are some examples of things that you could split test. Remember, always keep in mind between two variations, only have one element different. Otherwise, there's no point in testing. All right. And then the common elements that we talked about were headline, imagery, copy, and buttons.